For most traders, trading is gambling. They haven't learned how to be the casino. So instead, they are in the casino.
I'm going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Rihanna as a shot. I'm going straight to the top.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? Mike here, Sports in the Real podcast, coming at you once again. I appreciate everyone joining me. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe and share this with your family and friends. This one, you might want to do that especially. I have a special guest with me, Taylor Stockwell, former digital marketing executive. Right now is a successful day trader. For those who don't know, I tried my hand at day trading at one point, wasn't that successful. And when Taylor reached out and said he was a day trader, I thought, well, might as well have him on. Maybe I can learn something so I can get back in the game. So we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. But Taylor, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, glad to be here, Mike. Love it.
Cool. By the way, y'all, check out the website. Don't forget to check out the website. I know you like listening and watching on YouTube, but check out the website, sportsinthereal.tv, to keep up with more of Sports in the Real shit stuff happening. Before we get into trading, day trading, and all that stuff, college football Saturday, and I wanted to get your thoughts. First of all, Texas and Oklahoma played today, and the game was not competitive, and you say you like competition. The game was not competitive. You live in Texas, correct? Yeah. What are your thoughts on Texas? So Texas is number one right now, and I'll get into this in a little bit. I don't know if Texas is really as good as their ranking is, but I don't see anyone else who can be number one and we'll be like, well, this guy deserves to be number one either. What's your take on Texas?
Texans will kill me if I say anything other than I love Texas.
Hey, man, tell the truth.
No, we had a little bit of a pre-conversation, and so you know me a little bit, and that I like competition. I don't have that home team, and so I'll root for teams that maybe I have some sort of personal affiliation with or affinity for. And now that I live in Austin, this is a UT place. I mean, I'm right here in the thick of it, and this is all UT, and I've grown to love the team. And part of it is because there's so much enthusiasm here around the Longhorns, and Austin, we love our UT Longhorns, we really do, and it's kind of infectious, you know what I mean? And I imagine that's how it is anywhere. If you're in Atlanta, well, I don't know, you're in Atlanta, so I don't know how much you love the Bulldogs, but that not really, I know, right? But for me, it's kind of infectious. I didn't have this growing up. I didn't have a big college team where I lived or a big pro team, and so it's kind of fun, actually. I like it.
So you're in Austin now. Is Austin like a college town, or is it bigger than that? Like, so I went to school in Tallahassee, and Tallahassee was like, if Florida State wasn't there, like if the state capital is there, but if that stuff wasn't there, like Tallahassee would be like a nothing town.
Yeah.
But I hear Austin's like booming.
Oh yeah. Austin's bigger, much bigger than. I think Austin's a great size because it's Houston and Dallas are enormous cities.
Yeah, I've been to Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to go to Dallas, but Austin's kind of a nice size. It's not so tiny. It's not like just a UT school. In fact, like there's way more going on here in Austin now than just UT. If UT went away, Austin would still thrive here.
Yeah, it's a lot of technology stuff going on, right?
There's a lot of technology, a lot of music stuff, big music scene. Here, big music and entertainment, music technology, like entertainment technology stuff is here. So yeah, there's a lot of interesting things going on here. It's really great.
Cool. Yeah. So let me get your take on this. I kind of teed it up, but Texas, I don't think they're that great. Alabama almost lost to South Carolina. I don't think they're that great after losing to Vanderbilt.
Vandy, yeah.
But they beat Georgia. So I feel like college football as we know it is kind of dead. I know you didn't grow up with a home team, but I grew up watching an era where there were teams where you're like, oh man, nobody's beating these guys. Like
Yeah.
when my Seminoles were great back in the day, when the Hurricanes were dominant, when Alabama was dominant under Saban. And I feel like the NIL and the transfer portal has kind of killed all that to the point where there is no definitive, team where you're like, okay, these guys, we're going to root either for or against them because they're just that dominant. And as much as I want college kids, they've been not getting paid for the longest time, so I want college kids to get paid. I want them to be able to have the ability to transfer, when they want to, like the coaches do, right? That's always been like a dirty game. Coaches can leave, but the kids can't, and the kids never got any of the pie. But I feel like it's all kind of killing the game now. Like, the game is not as great as it used to be because the teams are like, there's nobody stacking up on talent to the point where, like, these guys are so deep, they're so great and so fun to watch. Everybody is just so average. Even the number one team is just so average now. Like, I feel like college is turning to like a minor leagues, not in a good way, like baseball minor leagues. What's your take on that?
Well, it could be that, or it could be, one thought is that maybe what's happening is the talent is getting more dispersed across different schools because they have choice and they have options now because of the transfer portal, right? And so instead of Alabama being able to attract, 20-star players across, the U.S., they can get 5 and Clemson's got their 3 and, it just gets spread out maybe a little bit more because these guys want to go where they can play. And if you're a great athlete, so you have superior athletes and then you have great athletes. And if you have a great athlete who's looking at Bama and Bama's got 10 superior athletes there, you're like, well, I may not get a chance to play and I'm a great athlete. So I'm going to go over, to XYZ school. And then there might be other things that set them apart. Maybe, better coaching or a luck of the schedule for that year. Like you got to be honest about that. Like sometimes you just get lucky with the schedule where you've got teams that you can beat most of the year and you end up undefeated, and then that raises your confidence. And then by the time you go into playoffs, you're brimming with confidence, and that can turn a team around, right? The mindset. So I'm a mindset guy too. We can talk about this with trading, but this is why I think, it's October. But, the mindset stuff will show up in November with these teams. And we might see a more differentiation. You might start to see those stellar teams step up because guys that are, they're working on their mindset, they're working on their confidence. You get them a little bit more through the season. They hit some tough games. They get through that, and then they really start distancing. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, you say that about mindset, but then again, a lot of people see, the ability to transfer at will. Again, I'm in favor of it, but a lot of people see it as quitting, right? Like, whereas in the past, you came in, you did your time, you put your mind to it, and hey, when this guy leaves, I'm going to be on top of my game. I'm going to keep working, even if I'm not getting playing time. And when it's my time to play, I'm going to hit the ground running. Now, some people view it as, hey, you're actually quitting. You're not as strong-minded as your predecessors were.
Yeah. Wasn't there a team last year? If I remember, there was a bowl game that was it canceled because they had so many transfers in the portal and they couldn't even get most of their starters to play. Was that Clemson? Do you remember this?
I know Florida. I'm a Florida State fan, and we got blown out because we got left off of the playoffs. The college football playoffs after going undefeated, but our starting quarterback got hurt and people counted us out. So we got left out of the playoffs and they jumped Texas and Alabama ahead of us to go to the playoffs. But a lot of our guys, were going pro, but a lot of other guys like transferred as well.
Yeah.
So we ended up getting smoked like 62-3 or something ridiculous by UGA in the bowl game, and that looked bad on us. And honestly, we haven't recovered. And that's one of the downsides of the transfer portal is that these kids, they can leave at any time now. So I don't know if you saw this story. You don't know if you saw this story. One kid, I guess he was promised a certain amount of money in NIL and he didn't get it. So he just starting quarterback, I think UNLV, he just quit. He was like, I'm out of here. So after 3 games, he quit. And he's like, I'm gonna redshirt so I could play transfer and play the next year because
Yeah.
I'm not getting the NIL deal that I was promised.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's tricky, and I don't remember what the game was, but I remember it was a big to do last year because there was a bunch of players that said, "Well, I'm not playing in that bowl game because I'm transferring out, and I'm not going to risk an injury for this team that I'm leaving." Right?
Yeah.
And it's like, you kind of put your teammates in a little bit of a bind too from that perspective. So I think it's tricky. I think it's tricky because one, it gives choice. I think it's a little rough around the edges right now, Mike, but I think it'll get better. And I think what's going to end up happening, the market is going to solve the problem. And at some point, colleges are going to figure out, okay, how do I keep these players around? How do I give them what they really want so that they don't want to use the portal and step out? Right?
Yeah,
They're
more
going to have
money.
to figure that out.
It's more money, so it might as well. So all of that, pretense of student athletes and amateurism, like all of that is gone, right? So if you want to
Yeah.
keep somebody, like you gotta pay more. So this guy I
Yeah.
was just talking about with UNLV, the quarterback, like you either gonna have to pay up or he's gonna be gone. And
Yeah.
even guys who are getting paid, if somebody comes in and offers them more. And this stuff used to happen under the table, right? I hear pro athletes from back in the day talking about when they were getting recruited, they were getting paid under the table by
Yeah.
Florida and Alabama and things like that. But now that it's acceptable, these guys are like, yeah, you got to pay me $1 million. And then if
Yeah.
this guy comes and offers me $2 million, you better be ready to match it. And that's part of the reason why I feel like Nick Saban quit, to be honest with you. I don't think it was old age or anything. I feel like he just didn't want to have to deal with the fact that these kids are like asking for professional money and, they've got agents now essentially. And it's just a totally different ballgame. So you're confident that the market will adjust. I feel like it's just going to turn college football into like, a pro league or whatever.
I'm not making a judgment.
It takes away from rivalries. It takes away from
Yeah.
like guys at Florida State now. I mentioned this on a previous episode. Guys at Florida State now, like a bunch of transfers and like they have no loyalty, no real affiliation to the school. Like, back in the day, like we were proud Seminoles. Again, this is just me talking as a fan, as a business person and an adult. I want these guys to make their money. But it sucks because it's like these guys are transferring in. They're not really Seminoles, right? They don't really care to be there. They just want the money, get the check, and be gone.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I'm not making a judgment about whether what's going to happen is a good thing or a bad thing, right? It's probably not healthy or great for college football, and at least college football is how we know it. But there are going to be adjustments as we go. There's going to be some fixes that you kind of have to satisfy both sides. You have to satisfy the coaches who are frustrated that, they can't rely on players to stick around while they build a team around them. Like these coaches, you got to think as a coach, like you're building a squad around a certain mixture and chemistry between multiple players. And you got these guys that take off. It's very frustrating for them. And then you got these kids that are coming up out of, various socioeconomic circumstances that are like, yeah, and I need to take care of myself and my family too, because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to do this physically.
Yep.
And so there just has to be some fixes that happen in this whole system. And maybe it's a limit. Maybe like you get 2 transfers in your college career and that's what you get, right? Like maybe something along those lines will come up. I don't know.
Yeah, I feel like now that it's so open, there's going to be a lot of pushback if somebody says, hey, you can only transfer twice, because coaches can leave after every season, mid-season. They don't care. So we've gotten to a point where, again, I'm going to keep repeating this so people won't misconstrue what I'm saying. Like, it's gotten to a point where the kids are like, we're going to be able to do, we want to do whatever we want to do because the coaches can do whatever we want to do. And if somebody's going to pay us more, we want to be able to leave in. That's great. I just feel like even for something like the Red River rivalry that happened today, right? Oklahoma, Texas, I feel like even the rivalries are diluted because one year you could be playing for Oklahoma, the next year you could be playing for Texas. Like one of the receivers, Isaiah Bond from he played for Alabama last year, caught a big touchdown against Auburn, and now he's playing for Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just tough. So as a fan, it's tough. As a parent, an adult, like I totally get it. So,
but I also want to see my team attract great talent like that too.
Yeah,
like that's the other side of it. Like as a fan, it's like, Well, yeah, man, I'll take that Alabama receiver any day.
Exactly, exactly. Sis. We'll pay him, $2 million to come over. That's exactly it. Unfortunately, Florida State is still trying to figure out the right group of guys to bring in. Because last couple of years we brought in. So I don't know if you know the whole backstory of Florida State with, how after Bobby Bowden left and and all that, right? And
Yeah.
the program was pretty much crap
Rough.
until probably a couple years ago when Mike Novell kind of turned it around. And he had to bring in a lot of people who weren't officially Florida State guys, a lot of transfer portal guys, or else he was going to have a hard time getting the program back on track. But we were good for a couple of years, but now like we're in the dumpsters, and I don't know where we go from here because the guys who are here now probably shouldn't be at Florida State. They don't belong there. And the guys who he's recruiting are probably, I've already seen at least one guy say he was committed, he's decommitting because it's like we suck now. So it's going to be a challenge for us. So I don't know how we play it, man, to be honest with you.
Yeah. 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 There's a lot of ups and downs.
Yeah.
We'll see.
So we'll see how that goes. So going back to what you said earlier, right? And what you told me, you didn't grow up with a college team. You grew up in Virginia, right?
I grew up in Richmond, Virginia. As well.
Virginia. A lot of
Go Spiders.
A lot of athletes come from VA. Make it pro. Iverson, Vic, all these guys, right? But no professional team. Only team is like what the University of Virginia Cavaliers.
Yeah.
How was it? I've always been interested to ask someone this. Like, I grew up a hardcore Miami Dolphins fan.
Yeah.
Like Dan Marino ran the state when I was growing up in Florida. Like you had to be a Dolphins fan. Some people were Bucks fans, but they sucked. By the mid '90s, the Jags came around, but they were an expansion team, even though they got good pretty quick. But Dan Marino, like growing up, Dan Marino was God, right?
Yeah.
The right arm of God is what we call Dan Marino in Florida. So we were fanatics. I grew up a fanatic, and the people I grew up around, they were fanatics of whatever team. Like even if they were Cowboys fans, like everyone was a fanatic. So it's new to me, when I got older, I started hearing people who were just football fans and basketball fans, but they didn't really have a team. I'm like, how do you watch the game without a truly vested interest? Now that I'm older, I can understand how you do it. But as a youngster, how did you ingest football and sports without truly having a team that you were like bound to?
Oh man, I was so into sports growing up though. Like me and I lived in this apartment complex, and I had a couple of, I had a couple friends, actually a lot of friends. It was like the great thing about an apartment complex is that you have all these open spaces, and we had nothing to do because all our parents were single parents working. And so we'd go out into the big field, and we would, like my friend Terrain, we'd play one-on-one football against each other. I'd hike the ball and then pass to myself, and so sports was our outlet in a lot of ways of, kind of what we were struggling with or whatever that was at that time. And so, for us, sports was very therapeutic. And so, whether it was football or t-ball or baseball as I got older, or wrestling in high school, it was just, just doing the sports and being part of teams and pushing yourself was just so instrumental for me. And so growing up, I wasn't like, I never had a team, and so it was just, it's for you, it's so natural that you have a team because you grew up that way. For me, it's so natural that I'm like, I'd watch, the Cowboys play the Steelers in their big rivalry, and for some time I was a Cowboys fan. And then there was a point where I'm like, I don't like the Cowboys anymore.
See, you could switch like that because you didn't have a home team. It didn't matter.
Yeah. And so I go with personalities because I'm the kind of person that I like to see competitiveness, and I like to see really good sportsmanship. And so guys that talk a lot smack. Like I'm like that just turns me off. I like the quiet guys that go
Oh,
out
really?
there.
You don't like trash talking?
I don't like trash. I'm not a trash talker.
Wow. So you wouldn't be a fan of somebody like Deion Sanders or somebody like that?
It's funny because I actually like Deion Sanders now, but I didn't like Deion Sanders in that height of his career. But I actually like him now because I think I understand the guy a little bit more, and that
Really?
a lot of it was a show. Like who Deion Sanders is as a person isn't necessarily reflective of his outward external persona. I've heard a lot of good things about Deion Sanders as a person, right?
A lot of people don't like him now because they feel like he's still a showboating. A lot of people think he's fake.
Yeah.
He's just all about himself, even though he says, he's about his kids. Like people doubt him, right? And they see the flash, they see the glasses, all these things. They're like, they don't know if they can. He's not, the regular old, ball coach that they're used to. So he's different, and people are like, I don't know if we can trust this guy. People think like after this year, he's like after his son leaves, like he's probably leaving.
Yeah, he might be. Yeah. So anyway, like if there's some sort of affinity I have with a team, like one reason I like the Longhorns is because Sarkisian, my alma mater is BYU. And Sarkisian was, a quarterback at BYU.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, okay, Sark, go for it, man. Like, let's do this. And so, yeah, you just have those affinities with certain teams for whatever personal reason, and then I'm in on the team. And then if that affinity goes away, I'm okay. Like,
you're okay
shifting
switching.
gears. What's that?
You're okay switching.
I'm okay switching sides.
Man, we call that where I'm from a bandwagoner, all right?
Is that why I'm in favor of the transfer portal? Just
yes.
Go where you need to go.
Yes, come to my team.
That's right.
So you don't have any problem with LeBron just hopping teams to go win championships, basically. You're like,
well, I mean, hey, if it was my
get
team,
it how you
he's
can
coming
get it,
to.
man.
Only if he's my team, he's coming to.
Get it how you can get it. You don't care. No, that's interesting. So, and I think that was kind of my feeling as well, as like people who didn't grow up with like a team, they're able to watch the game. If they're enjoying that team, they'll like them. If they're not emotionally tied, invested to that team to stay with them through the bad times. Whereas as a Dolphins fan of 30 plus years, like I have gone through hell and back with this team, like suffering, like literally when I was younger, and by younger I mean like still in my 30s, that going through this, watching the Miami Dolphins lose in a crushing manner, and it literally affecting my whole week.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to do anything at work on Monday, on Tuesday. Like by Wednesday, I'm a little bit okay, and because the Thursday night game is about to come around, but I swear, man, like I would have like my whole week messed up if the Dolphins lost. And honestly, the Dolphins have been losing for a long time. So in a way, I kind of envy people. I'm much better now, obviously, right? I've grown up, guys. I've grown up, but
I only cry for 2 days now.
yeah. Now, I only cry. I cry myself to sleep, and the next day I wake up, I'm good. No, it's tough as having an affinity towards a team like that.
Yeah.
And some people are able to let go. I've been able to let go somewhat. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not as diehard of a fan as I used to be, and I feel like the NFL and sports league, they want you to be as a diehard fan, right? That's how you get emotionally attached, and you're watching and you're paying for the gear. Like if you're just like an innocent bystander in a way, like you're not buying all this gear and spending money on football gear and all that stuff. But I kind of envy people who are in that position who aren't emotionally tied as I was, because man, the Dolphins took a lot of years off of my life because I was an emotional wreck after all of these losses, all of these years, and never able to give that drug up, man. So yeah, I kind of envy people like you, bro.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, let's be honest too. Like, I mean, I don't know what you could call this, but I get to choose teams that maybe are on the up, like,
that's correct.
Like, it's like, I don't want to go through that emotional downside. I think I'm going to choose this team because I think they're on the up and I like this coach, right?
Yeah, you never lose.
That's right. I never lose, man. I was a Seahawks fan when the Seahawks started rising. And why? Because Russell Wilson went to school outside of Richmond, Virginia, and
Yeah,
one of
he's a
like
VA
a
kid.
school that I know. And I'm like, I'm a fan of Russell Wilson, so I love the Seahawks, right? And so, so I get to do this. I get to choose. I get to choose all the winners all the time, Mike.
Yeah, you get to team. You're basically LeBron James right now, just hopping from team to team, collecting championships. And you're like the GOAT fan right now, bro. Like,
There
yeah,
we
yeah,
go.
I got all these rings, man.
That's
So
the way to
how
do
many
it.
championships are you sitting on right now for all the teams you've been rooting for?
Too many to count, man. Too many to count. I mean, I'm not even gonna start counting that. That's Dude, I can blow anybody out of the water. You name a team, and I was a fan when they were a champion.
That's hilarious, man. Because I'm sitting here like, damn, that could be me, man. Like I'm stuck on zero, really. Like, as a Dolphins fan, I'm
Dude,
like,
Miami had
God.
their run. Do you remember when Dan Marino? Like, I do remember this because I grew up obviously watching a lot of football, and I love the Dolphins too. And I remember the first time I ever saw this. Maybe it wasn't the first time, but I was a kid, and so it was the first time for me. They were measuring Dan Marino's throw speed, like how quickly it released.
His release.
Remember, and I don't think anybody had ever analyzed a quarterback in that way, at least on television. And I remember them like there's a be
Quickest
a little
release.
clock. There'd be a little
Yeah.
clock, and that was the first time that they were doing that kind of stuff, and it was so fascinating. They talked about how fast his release is, faster than anybody in the NFL. He's got the fastest, quickest
NFL
release.
history, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
He had a mechanical arm, man. No, Dan Marino's release, like from the time, and that's what got me hooked on the football, man. Is like I was born in Haiti, and I moved to Orlando when I was like 7. Didn't know anything about football at the time. I remember playing football at PE and not knowing a damn thing about it. I wanted to play soccer, but there was nobody to play soccer with, so I ended up, and watching football on TV, and these guys had these huge shoulder pads. I thought they was styrofoam. I didn't know what the heck it was. But what attracted me was Dan Marino and like the grace he played with. It was like all the other quarterbacks are like they were struggling to throw, and this guy's right arm was like it was so robotic,
Yeah.
and his passes were always pinpoint,
Bullet.
like speed, accuracy, touch,
Yeah.
everything you needed was in his arm. And I didn't know anything about the game, but as I learned the game, I was like, yeah, this cat is different, man.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I just hooked on to the Dolphins, and that watching Dan Marino's years was like, man, like I don't know if I've seen a better thrower of the football than that guy.
Yeah. Yeah. He had great footwork too.
Great footwork. Like he wasn't super athletic, but you couldn't sack him. I think he
Yeah.
still holds the record of the most snaps without taking a sack. Like,
Are you serious? Oh, I didn't know.
yeah,
have a
man.
record
Like,
for
but the
everything.
guy was ridiculous. He was crazy, man.
Yeah.
I thought the one year I thought we had a greatest chance was like in I think it was '94, and he blows out his Achilles in like week 6 or something like that in Cleveland. I thought we were going to win the championship that year, but man, yeah, that's yeah, those were good times though. Dan Marino, Dan the man. So that's if I ever get to meet Dan Marino, I've never met him. I didn't get to go to Dolphins games when I was younger, so I never went to a game and watched them live, but he's the one guy, even as an adult, I'm like, yeah, I need to shake Dan Marino's hand. Like that guy carried my childhood.
I had a fun experience when I was 12. I visited my dad, and my mom had divorced when I was 2. My dad lived in Sausalito, California, which is when you're in San Francisco, everybody knows the Golden Gate Bridge. When you cross the Golden Gate Bridge, on the other side is this little town. It's like a little village called Sausalito. It's like a little tourist place. People like to go there, go shopping. And I was there with my dad. He lived there, and I was there with him for the summer. And I was riding a bike that my dad had procured for me for the summer, probably my stepbrother's bike. And I'm doing something that, dumb 12-year-old kids shouldn't do, which is I'm riding my bike along the sidewalk, and then all of a sudden these 2 people come out from behind a car, and I hit my brakes on my bike, and I stumble and just fall down and almost hit them. And it's this gorgeous blonde, just this, you look at the blonde, it's like, wow, gorgeous. And then I looked at the dude, I'm like, that's Joe Montana. I'm like, that's Joe Montana. I almost hit Joe Montana on my bike.
Should have hit Joe
And
Montana.
he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Uh-huh." I don't think I said a word. I don't think anything came out of my mouth.
Wow.
So that was my closest encounter with a famous football player.
You should have just ran over Joe Montana, man.
Yeah, for real.
You would have been the kid that killed Joe Montana's career, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
This guy's supposed to be the GOAT, and I ran him over. That's hilarious, man.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Great story, man. Cool, man. This I could talk about football all day, but I want to get into some talking about trading because, like I said, I tried my hand at day trading. I was trading like oil and like those types of things, like commodities.
Yeah.
Didn't work out
Smart,
too well.
by the way, smart. The futures
Didn't work out
market.
too well.
Futures market is the way to do it.
Futures market.
Yeah.
Didn't work out too well. So you're now I'm gonna say you've mastered this. Taylor has mastered this, y'all. He's mastered it. So let's pivot to that real quick and have some conversation about that. So first of all, how'd you get into this, right? So you previously did digital marketing. Like, how'd you get into day trading and then it's sticking?
Yeah. Oh. Well, that's probably like 15 years ago. I had a couple of friends that were like, "Oh, Taylor, you should check this out." And it was the Forex market. So there's, in trading, there's a lot of different markets. Most people are familiar with the stock market. There's options, there's futures, and then there's Forex. And Forex is kind of like the wild, wild west.
Forex has a bad reputation. I'll be honest with you.
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's highly manipulated. It's not really, there's no central, exchange. I mean, it's somewhat regulated, but not really. It's really loose. So it's kind of crazy. And so I had these guys, that are like, "Taylor, you're going to love this." And so they introduced me to the Forex market, and it didn't take long, and I was just hooked. And by the way, like I should mention, this is really, really interesting, is I grew up really poor. Like my family, we were on welfare. My mom was a single mom, and, like when I say we lived in apartment complexes, they were the rough side of the apartment complexes and trailer parks.
I was there too.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, for sure, refugee from Haiti, like I'm sure,
I was there.
So, and so like the whole money thing for me has always been kind of a little bit of a blocker, a little bit of like, always nervous about money, nervous about being poor. So like I'm anti-risk. I'm not the kind of guy, especially when it comes to money, that it's like, "Oh yeah, I'm like, bet it all on black. Let's go." And it's funny because there's, a lot of the big live streamers who are traders are these guys that are like, come in like, "I'm going to load up here and I'm going to YOLO." And I'm like, that's not me. And so it's kind of funny to see someone like me really attracted to trading, because the first thought is, well, aren't you just gambling?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Are you gambling?
Right? You're just gambling. And here's the thing. Here's the real secret is that for most traders, trading is gambling. But it's gambling because they haven't learned how to properly trade. They haven't learned how to be the casino. So instead, they are in the casino. And that's the real difference, is that as a real professional trader, you learn how to make yourself the casino so that the probabilities, the statistics are always on your favor, right? And so it becomes a risk management game at that point.
How'd you get to that point, right? I mean, did you take losses early on? Because I think I mentioned this to you, right? Like I took losses, I won some, but when I lost, I kept chasing it, and that was my downfall. So I was the gambler essentially, right? And I was supposedly following some people, and it didn't work out, right? I'm not gonna tell you guys how bad it got, but it got bad, right? Yeah. My wife got close to killing me. I'm just playing. She probably would have if she could have, but we didn't get that close. So how did you get to the point where you became the casino and not the gambler that most people are? Just trying to
Yeah.
guess the market.
I'm not going to say it was easy. It was actually quite, at least for me and my journey, it was quite the journey. It was quite a long journey too. It wasn't like, yeah, a few years. It was a long time to get there. And part of it was, I'm also, I had a career and I had a family. I've got 4 kids. We were raising our 4 kids. And so like trading was always, a side hustle. It was always like, all right, like I want to evolve into this. And so other things would take priority. And so it took me a little bit more time. I started doing, so I traded a whole bunch of different approaches, but I started out doing basic, what you call technical analysis. So it's basic stuff. And then I landed into what we call an arbitrage strategy. So it's basically I was taking advantage of news reports that would come out and then movement in the market. So I was able to get in before the market could actually move and respond to like an economic report that would come out. And that was really good. So that was, that really solidified for me that, oh, this can be really great. Trading is one of those things that if you can master it, you really have the ability to make as much money for as long as you want, right? That's the appeal, is that you're no longer reliant on anybody or anything else. You can make money on demand is kind of what you are trying to strive for when you're trying to get to consistent profitability. And so for a while there, it was really great because the system that I had was working really well. And then there were some regulatory things that happened, and then there was weird foreign exchange stuff. We talked about this, right? The foreign exchange market kind of a little bit Wild West. And all of a sudden I wasn't getting filled anymore on my orders. I could not get into my trades, and the brokers had just started blocking me, and I couldn't get in. And so that system really kind of died off. And then that's when the real journey for me really began, because I had to learn how to trade in a very different way. And it took time, and it took personal development. It took me learning about process and mindset and how to build a system and an edge, and how to do a whole bunch of skills that honestly I'd never learned. And along the way, there were some things that helped me. So I had really good mentors along the way. I had awesome coaching. Like in the end, coaching and getting the right coaching is going to set you apart. Right.
I could have used that advice a couple years back, Taylor.
Yeah. I mean, listen, and I'm a coach, by the way. So like, I don't know if we talked about this, but I coach traders on consistency, partly because it was such a frustrating experience for me to get through that and try to find, and sift through all the junk that's out there, find the right mentors, find the right information, find the stuff that really works. And then now I have this whole formulaic approach, this methodical approach that works really well, because I've been able to take the best from all of this whole journey that I've been on. And that's part of the struggle. That's part of the challenge is sifting through all this stuff. This industry's broken. Like this industry, like the coaching education part of trading, it's absolutely broken.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. I was going to make the point that a lot of people say, like people who say they're succeeding with day trading, like they're liars, like this thing's a scam.
Well, that's not even the issue. Like I'd be okay. I could care less whether someone is profitable or not. Like if I have a coach or a mentor, one of my best mentors had zero trading experience. She was my mindset coach.
Oh.
And she taught me how to manage my mind as a trader. And she knew nothing about the markets. So for me, I could care less whether someone is a successful trader or not. What I care about is, are they going to coach me to success? Do they have the track record of coaching someone to success? And that's the problem. That's the funny thing, is because people go in it like you, Mike, and they say, let me find the best day trader out there, and I'm going to learn from them. And you know who looks like the best day traders? They're these guys that are live streaming.
Yeah.
and they look like they're bringing in $20,000-$30,000 a day, right? And then they're selling you their $199 program.
Man, why are you telling my life like that?
That's not the way. That's why this is so broken. It's partly because we think we know what we need. We need this guy that's successful that I can see on YouTube every day, and it looks like he's bringing all this money. And as long as I do what he's doing, I can be successful. And that doesn't work. That's not working. This whole industry is broken because of this.
So you talk about mindset. So what does work then, right? If following the guys who are succeeding doesn't work, I can attest. What does work then? Like when you're a coach, right? What
Yeah.
do you coach people in so they can succeed at this thing?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what I do, because I'm a believer. I'm sure there's many different paths that people can take, right? So I'm not saying like my way is the only way, right? But my way is working, and I know that because of the success that I'm having with the people that I coach and the people that I work with. So this is my coaching philosophy. Okay, one is I have a methodology, and it's based on something I call the trader's triangle. And the trader's triangle is a recipe for how you become consistently profitable as a trader. And there's 3 ingredients. So number 1 is edge. And what edge is, it's the set of rules that you use to determine whether or not you get in or out of a trade. And that edge over a period of time or over a course of a number of trades has to give you a statistical probability of profit. Okay. Let me just unpack that a little bit.
Yes, go into that detail.
Okay. So your rules are, I'm getting in for this reason, I'm getting out for this reason, and the rules are really clear. And if I look at 100 of these trades over the past, month or 2 months, or 1,000 trades, then net, I'm winning, I'm gaining more than I lose. Right? That's what I mean by being the casino. Right?
Okay.
Statistically, you cannot lose money if you follow those rules.
Wow.
If you take 1,000 of these same trades, the same set of rules, you can't lose. The statistics are on your side. You have now, this is how casinos operate. Every game has a probability of success for the casino. And a lot of times it's tight. It's like maybe 52%. Right?
So you're trying to tell me the casinos aren't really ripping people off?
Well, no, that's
It's a
not what I'm saying. I'm saying
probability.
I'm saying the casinos are, because they've structured all their games so that they will always win in the long term. Right? Every individual pull on that machine is random. Right? But I guarantee you, over 1,000 pulls, that machine is set to always pay the casino more money. Right?
And that is a scam.
Yeah, it is 100%. Yeah, 100%.
That's why I don't gamble, which is weird because I spent a lot of money day trading.
And your wife is like, "What? You're just gambling now."
Yeah, so like I was two different people. So I don't gamble. I don't like to lose money in that fashion. Like my wife and I have gone to Vegas last couple years, and she wants to do the gambling. I don't like to gamble because when I gambled, ever since I was a youngster, like gambling with kids at school, like I never won anything.
Yeah.
Right? Or even if I won, I would lose it all back. Like I bet on football games, $5 with the boys, in high school. I never won anything, so I am anti-gambling. But when it came to day trading,
You're like, "I'm going to win it all."
yo, I was trading like crazy and lost a lot of money.
Yeah.
Sad to say.
Yeah.
So that's why I need guidance, from smart people like you, so I won't repeat that.
So that's probably the first thing, and that is the first thing that I work with people on is the edge. It's, do you have a set of rules? And I'll tell you, I would have a lot of traders come to me and say, dude, I'm struggling with my mindset. I cannot get my mindset right. Like I'm so afraid of losing. And so I'll sit down with them and I'll ask them about their edge. And I'll be like, you don't have a mindset problem. You don't have an edge. You don't have a set of rules. You don't have a clear set of rules that you know give you a statistical probability of profit. Solve that problem first, and then we'll work on the mindset.
So you don't deviate at all
What do you mean by deviate?
from those rules.
All right, so okay, so that's number 2. All right, so we got, this is the second pillar. Okay, so first pillar is
Edge.
you have to have your set of rules. Okay, your second pillar is what I call process. It's everything that you do to execute those rules. Right.
Okay.
And that can include things like making sure you wake up in the morning. That might be one aspect, right? Getting your exercise in, doing some meditation. So there's that kind of stuff, but there's also stuff like, do you know how to enter correctly? Do you know what kind of risk reward to put on to your trade? All these things will go into the process part, which is how do you execute that rules? How are you prepared to execute? Think of it like the skill set, right? The skill set, the work that you do to be better at executing your edge. So if you want to be a really great swimmer, let's say you want to be, an Olympian swimmer, right? And you learn the technique, right? The coach will say, this is the right technique. But then you go through all this work to get yourself better and better and closer to that perfection of that technique. Right? That's process. So edge is like the technique. This is perfection. We're never going to meet perfection. We're always going to be short of that perfect trading, but we want to work on ourselves to get closer and closer and closer to there. And so that's where process comes into play. But the third thing is mindset, because guess what? We fail. And then the mindset drama comes. Oh, I'm a failure. I'm afraid to put this on. I lost 5 in a row. How can I take this other trade? You experienced all that, right?
Or you're chasing your losses. Oh,
Yeah.
I can't leave today having lost, so I'm gonna put even more money in to try to get it all back.
Yeah.
And even more money. And tomorrow I'm gonna put even more money because I gotta make up for the losses I left from yesterday. And
Right.
it becomes bad real quickly if you don't have. And that's why I figured out in talking to you that what I lacked at the time was mindset. So when I was doing it, I was just like you mentioned before when you first started talking, is if you're just in it trying to make a whole bunch of money, you're probably gonna end up losing it all. If you're in it just watching people on YouTube streaming who are talking about all their wins, you're probably going to have the wrong mindset. And I clearly had the wrong mindset because I was just after, I got to make the money. I can't go home today having lost 5 G's. I got to make it all back.
Yeah.
So I'm going to put another 5 G's, and before you know it, you're like, what happened? So I had the wrong mindset. So how do you build that mindset then that you're talking about? Like what is that mind? Is it like this, no matter what, I'm just going to follow my rules, right? I have rules A, B, C, D. I'm never going to do anything outside of that, right? I'm going to go in when it's here. I'm going to come out when it's here. Like, even if I miss out on some wins, oh well.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a range of things. So a lot of it is dependent on, who am I coaching? And so I actually coach 2 different groups of people. So I coach people who've never traded before, and I love coaching them because they have zero baggage. They have it's like a fresh canvas. And in fact, I tell people, a couple things. One is they're never allowed to risk their own money while they're working with me. So I run risk-free programs. We can get into that in a second.
Yeah, talk about that.
We'll talk about that in a second.
Yeah.
But that's part of the reason for that is because I don't want them to build up the mindset hurdles that come from having losses, right? Because then those are hard to overcome. So new traders, brand new, are awesome. I love working with brand new traders. I love coaching them the right way from the very beginning. And then I have reset. I call them my reset traders. It's traders who've really struggled. They maybe didn't have a great experience like you. And it's like, I need to reset you. Right. And the reset is the first thing we're going to do is we're going to double down on edge. And either you're going to tell me what your rules are, and we're going to hammer those rules so much that you're going to know whether or not those rules produce for you. And if they do, you're going to know exactly how they produce for you. So Mike, let me ask you a question. If I said, okay, I have this system, Mike, I have a set of rules that if you follow this set of rules, I'm looking up at my board. I'm looking at one of my setups. This set of rules has a 69% win rate, and it has a 6-to-1 risk reward, which means that for every trade, you're likely to win 6 times what you would risk on the trade, and a 69% win rate. Does that sound pretty good?
Yeah.
Okay. If you knew that this particular setup had a 69% win rate and it delivered 6 times of the amount of profit versus each loss, would you have a mindset challenge to take that trade?
No.
I mean, you'd have to really talk yourself out of like, yeah, I don't know. Like this could be a loser. Like 69% win rate and a 6-to-1 risk reward is huge.
Absolutely.
And so if you're in a space where you know what those probabilities are, then that immediately takes care of a lot of the mindset stuff. And so a lot of transformation with my guys that I work with happens when we go through the whole edge part, when we really hammer down what is your edge, what do your metrics look like. And in some cases, they'll come back and say, oh, shoot, I don't even have an edge. Okay, I'll teach you mine. I have an edge, I'll teach you mine if you want. And then we'll go through that. And then they walk away with confidence that they have a system that will over a number of trades will deliver consistent results for them. And then it's a matter of just working on getting better at it, better and better and better. And then there's the mindset stuff is still there, Mike, but it's just not as powerful, right? Because you've got something that you can lean on from a confidence perspective. Whereas with you, and I don't want to assume or presume too much about what you experienced or what you went through, but I would imagine that you didn't have a clear set of rules. And so every trade you had no idea. It was just a random walk and it just a hope that this one works out.
Yeah. I mean, I was just following what these guys were saying, right? Like
Yeah.
They weren't on video talking, so it wasn't YouTube. This was like 8 years ago, but we were all sitting in a chat room or whatever, and following. Hey, I'm doing this right now, and I'm doing this right now, not knowing. And you're following a little chart right on the screen, going up and down, and I'm going in right now, and who knows if they were really going in right now or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. But I never learned the edge, right?
Yeah.
Or had a process, right? I didn't have any of that. It was more so, I'm going to follow what you guys say because you guys seem to be winning and I'm trying to win.
Yeah. And I think, when we talk about, what does it take to be, we talked about this like with football, right? By the end of the year or the end of the season, you start to see guys show up because they have a degree of self-confidence. They've been through some stuff where they now have self-confidence. So instead of relying on maybe their coach, that, okay, I'm going to trust my coach. Now it's like, I can trust myself. And so one of my really important coaching principles, I never live stream my trading ever. And I never will. And it's because I want my traders to be fully independent. I want them to have confidence in themselves, not confidence in me. Mm-hmm. I'm irrelevant to the equation. They're the only ones that matter, and confidence in themselves is really the only thing that matters. You need to be able to show up in the morning whether you're watching a live stream or not, and make your own decisions and have your own self-confidence in your edge and your ability to follow the edge. That's the
Wow.
key ingredient.
Wow. Do you ever take losses? Like, do you ever end the day you're like, man,
Oh gosh, yes.
since you've gotten good at this, since you've mastered this, you ever end like with a L on in the day?
Yeah, all the time. All the time. All the time. Yeah,
That's good to hear.
not a problem. Guess what? Not a problem. Not absolutely not a problem for me.
Wow.
Because I
That's where the
know,
6-to-1 comes
listen,
in.
I know out of my last 100 trades, definitely not, taking a loss. First of all, I have a lot of risk management controls on myself. Okay, so the max number of losses in a day for me is 4. I'm done. Okay, but 4 trades, 4 losses is made up in one trade, one winning trade for me. And so it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal for me to walk away and say, it was a rough day. This week is going to be awesome. Because I know my stats. I know my metrics. I know over the long term, it's going to be profitable. That's why casinos, you think casinos worry about paying out a big jackpot?
No, they're gonna make it up.
No, they love it. You know why? Because they're like, that's going to bring more people in. Every time we have a jackpot, that's going to bring more people in. I think every time I have like a losing day, I'm like, oh, tomorrow's going to be awesome because the numbers, the metrics, the stats are in my favor for a good day. So I don't know. It doesn't bother me.
Mindset thing.
As a mindset thing, but it's rooted in me understanding really well how my system performs and how I perform with my system.
So how do you then question people are going to ask, right? So you're not the only one out there succeeding. How is it going up against, assuming there's other people, winning? Plus, right, you talk about a casino, the house is managed by some big boys, right? Like corporate people, right? It's like you and me, all fine and good, but really like this stuff is run by big boys who are not trying to lose at all.
Yeah.
How do you win against that? Because that's like a Goliath, right? That seems insurmountable for someone like me, right, who's been in it. It's like, man, how I know people say they're winning, but are they really winning? Because it seems like only the big boys are winning at this thing.
Well, trading has a high failure rate, so let's acknowledge that amongst non-professional traders is a really high failure rate. Okay. So no, there's not a ton of successful, day traders that are out there. So there's a lot of theories about how the market works. There's a lot of theories. And, well, first of all, the idea that that you trading is a zero-sum game. For every trade that you take, there's a loser on the other end. That it may be true that the market nets itself out, but it doesn't necessarily mean that some other guy, in Mobile, Alabama is taking a loss because you're taking a win. First of all, that's not productive to think about as a trader, right? That's never going to help you as a trader. The markets are, and I don't want to use a lot of deep terminology, but the only term, that fits is the market term for this. They're fractal in nature. And basically what that means is that the person taking my trade on the other side, it could be a very large entity. If I'm trying to go long, they might be trying to get out of a position. They might be trying to sell some of their position that they're already long in. And so nobody's taking a loss. They might actually be
really
taking
a win
profit,
at that point for them.
right?
Yeah.
They might actually be taking profit on their position. And so it doesn't help a trader to think that this is a zero-sum game. And then the second aspect here is that there are large players that do sometimes control the market, and they can control and manipulate the market. Most of the time, the markets are run by algos. And so there's There's what's called market makers out there. This is one of the evolutions that's happened over the last 10 years is there's market makers who provide liquidity to the market, and they have all these algos that are running that are just there to provide liquidity for people who want to buy and sell. And so they really do most of the control of the market and the orders and, moving the market and that kind of stuff. And so if you can follow the algos, then you're just kind of hanging on for the ride when these guys are moving the market, and that's what you're looking for.
So you've kind of mastered that.
Well, I have a system. I have an edge that looks at, the algos and how the algos are doing their thing for the day, and then I can take positions based on, some of that data that I have around the algos, and then I can kind of trade against that. So yeah, that's one theory of how the market works. There's others like auction market theory. The market works as an auction. And then there's other systems that are set up for that kind of approach and that kind of a philosophy. I don't know who's right. I don't think there's a right or wrong. It doesn't matter whether you're right or wrong. The only thing that matters is that your set of rules over a period of 100, 200, 300, 500 trades returns a statistical probability of profit for you. You can come up with whatever reasoning you want for your rules, but it's got to return a statistical probability of profit for you.
Okay. So couple questions I'm coming from my audience's perspective, someone who's never traded. How would you go about doing this part-time? Like I have a 9 to 5. I don't have time, to be a true all-day trader to do this full-time. So how would I go about doing this, while I'm still working? And you said you did it for a while.
I did it. It was hard. Yeah, it was hard.
Yeah.
It's hard because I didn't really have any good coaching until the end. I think that was the hard part. Part of the reason I said that this industry is broken too is that there's so much fragmented information that's out there. Like if you want to get started day trading now, I wouldn't know where to go.
Good luck. Good luck.
There's literally hundreds of YouTubers that are out there. There's all kinds of courses.
I told you someone approached me talking about they use AI to do day trading. I'm like, okay.
Yeah.
Not for me. If everyone's using AI, then who's winning and losing?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't have an answer for people if they're like, hey, how do I get started? Other than, I mean, I'm always going to pitch my stuff. I think my stuff is awesome. And, I know traders that work with me are having a lot of success. So you can get started that way. But, find that thing that works for you in your schedule. I think that's the hard part is let me say this too. I'm kind of deviate here because this is a hard question for me to answer without, I hate coming off like, come do my stuff, right? I want to provide some real value. But I will say that, this is a really, really difficult challenge of trying to figure out, first of all, is this right for you? And you asked me a really good question, which is how did I stick with it for 15 years? I love this. Dude, I love trading. I love the markets. I love back testing. That's one of the things I do outside of day trading hours. I love this stuff. And I think that you end up with a lot of guys that stick around and do this, and they'll work through all the challenges and all the struggles and all the frustration because we love it. And I think that is going to be really the first thing that I would say to anybody. Just take a look at it to see if you love it. And then if you love it, then let's figure out the journey,
And day trading, from what I remember, it was primarily most of the action was in the daytime, right? 8, 9 o'clock in the morning Eastern, right?
So
I think that's where the scheduling question comes in.
Yeah.
It slows down after that, right? And I don't know. I never really traded at night, so I don't know exactly what happens after 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, 10 in the morning.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about timing.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So there are periods of time where the market is pretty active. And the first period of time is in the early morning hours when the London market opens at around 3 a.m. Eastern time.
So I never did that one.
3 to 5 or 6, the market's pretty active. There's a period of time and I start trading at 7:30 Eastern time, and I have setups that go at certain times. So they're distinct setups. So between 7:30 and 9:30, I have a distinct setup. Between 9:30 and 10:30, I have a distinct setup, right? And so I could stop trading everything and just trade 7:30 to 9:30 and I'd be fine. Or I could only trade 9:30 to 10:30 and I'd be fine. Or I could trade 9:30 to 10:30 to 11:30 and I'd be fine. And then I'm done. So my setups go pretty much from 7:30 to 11:30 in the morning. And I think one of the great things about trading is it is a playground of creativity. You can come up with a set of rules that work for any time frame. And so if you want to get up early and you want to trade early market, 7:30 in the morning, you can do that before you go to work. If you want to, maybe go in a little bit later. Now, if you want to trade, like you said, noon, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, that's when it's pretty rough.
Yeah.
I'm done trading at 11:30, 12 o'clock. Like the only reason I'd be not done trading is if I have a position that's open and I'm just waiting for either my profit target to get hit or for it to come back and take me out of break even. Right. So I'm managing a position versus trying to look for something new.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. So you mentioned not using your own money to trade.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to my followers, to me as well, because that's not what I did when I was trading.
Yeah.
Talk more about that.
Okay, I love this. This is so good. It's one of the real innovations that's happened in the futures market over the past probably I would say the last 2 to 3 years. It's become really popular. These guys have been around for a little bit longer. So years ago, the way the market is structured is in New York, you have all these firms. I mean, we've seen all the movies, right? We've seen Wall Street and the Boiler Room. I don't know. There's all these movies, The Wolf of Wall Street, right?
Yeah.
You get these Wall Street guys, right? And there's one type of firm called a hedge fund, and they go out and they hire all these hot shot guys that come in. They put them on their trade desk. They teach them how to trade. They're swinging lots of money, right? And it just looks like this glamorous lifestyle. They're trading during the day and doing coke at night. It's crazy stuff, right? But yeah, that was kind of
the life we all want.
Yeah, right. Yeah, let's do that. And then there's another firm type called a prop firm, which is just like a hedge fund, except they just don't take outside money. And so they bring traders on and they teach them how to trade. And one of the things you and I talked about before was they like to recruit D1 athletes, D1, D2 athletes, because these guys have a mindset. They're willing to, like, think about a quarterback. Quarterback can come into the game, 4 and out, come back, try it again, 2 picks, and still win the game because he's mentally able to keep coming back and keep taking shots, right?
Taking the right shots.
Yeah. So they'd hire these D1 athletes to come in, and somebody got the bright idea of, hey, we don't need to hire Wall Street. We don't need to hire Ivy League people or D1 athletes. We can just find the best traders anywhere in the world virtually. And so they've created these funds, these individual private funds that as an individual trader, I can sign up with their program. I can raise my hand and say, hey, I'd like to prove to you that I can trade consistently. And they're like, okay, it's $50 a month to go on our program, and you're going to trade. It's not real money. It's a simulated account, but you're going to trade. And if you fit their rules, and they have risk management rules, and a rule would be, if you lose $600 in the account before you make $2,000 in the account, then you have to try again. Okay? So you can try as many times as you want. You can keep going at it. But if you do that, if you reach $2,000 before you lose $600, they'll give you $100,000 to trade of their capital. And then they'll do a split with you, a 90-10 split. You keep 90% of all the profits you earn on that account, and they'll take 10%. And so these
That
funds
sounds
are,
too good to be true, man.
these guys are legit. They're paying out hundreds of millions of dollars to individual traders who are consistent. And so one of the frequent questions I get all the time is, well, how much money can you make trading? It's the most irrelevant question. The real question is, how do you get to the point where you can make consistent money? And that could be $10 a week. Because if you can make $10 a week, now with all these virtual prop firms, you can turn that $10 a week into $10,000 a week, because you can scale that by using their money and leveraging their money. And then you also don't have the mindset challenge of putting your own money at risk,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, because I don't want my audience getting killed because I told them to go day trade.
Well, I require this. So I don't even let people I work with trade their own money at all. I require them to go through. In fact, that's, kind of what I try to do in my program is I say, look, my goal is to get you to the point where you can pass off one of these evaluations, because this is it's the best test of whether or not you have reached a level of consistency. And so it's the most objective way to actually measure, are you where you need to be? And so that's the whole goal of what I do in my coaching with my program, is to get people through these evaluation programs, because then they've proved to themselves and they prove to the world that they are trading this in a disciplined, consistent manner.
How long does it take to go through that, just to get through that part of the program?
It depends. My last cohort, I had about 60% of my guys got through. And these were guys these were my reset guys. These weren't even my new people. These were my reset. We had to deal with all the baggage and unwind all the bad habits and relearn all kinds of stuff. And they got through, and 60% of them got through in about 3 months on the program. Yeah.
That seems like a long time.
To put it in perspective, this is the equivalent of you becoming an Olympic athlete. This is a high performance career. This isn't I'm going to go out and I don't want to put anyone down, so I'm not going to say any sort of field. I'm not going to say any sort of. I'm going to go start a janitorial business. There's nothing wrong with starting a janitorial business.
I got you.
Right.
Some things take different skills.
But this is you're in a performance role. You're in a high performance role. You're becoming an Olympic athlete. 95% of traders fail. 60% of my traders succeeded.
So you say, and I hear you, it's a stupid question to ask, how much money can you make? But people who are listening are like, is this a realistic thing for me, if I want to actually start spending my time, because my time is valuable. So what is a realistic expectation for someone who's just getting out of it? Let's say 6 months in, a year in. What is realistic, right? You're not going to be a millionaire off the bat, or will you be?
I can't answer that. I have no idea. I mean, it's such a hard question because it depends so much on that person and where they're at. If it's a new person, you're learning a whole new skill set from the very beginning. Mm-hmm. Right. And so and listen, if I wanted to sell a lot of programs, I would tell people, dude, you can make $1 million in 3 months. Just come join my program. Right. There's no way I'll do that, because this is, what I'm doing is I'm trying to coach you and teach you in a way that you have a lifelong skill of producing a significant quantity of money for yourself. And that is not a 1 month, 2 month, 3 month, 6 month thing. Could be a 6 month thing. You could be, taking your first payout from a prop firm in 6 months. That's realistic. Right? But how much mindset baggage do you bring to the table? How much of that work, of the assignments that I ask you to do you actually do? Right? Like, all this becomes really tailored to, are you following the program? Are you doing the work? Are you doing the back testing work? Do you have the mindset baggage and challenge that you're bringing to the table every day that we have to work on and work through. So that's why it can vary so much, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, this thing's like, essentially trying to create a second career, because you're gonna have to go back to school to learn stuff, right, before you graduate and you're able to do this thing, which is good, right? I did not do that my first go around. I just jumped in here. Like I said, I'm just gonna follow these guys and do what they do, and didn't turn out so well. So I actually prefer this approach of learn about it before you do anything else. Learn about it, and then secondly, don't use your own money. That way your wife doesn't kill you, fella. So now that's awesome stuff, man.
I think it's important to think about it like any business. If you were to go start a business, like, would you really expect that business is turning a profit in, a month or 2 months, and that you've learned everything about that business? And, you enter a new field, like you have to expect, I've got to learn some things. I'm going to have to make mistakes. I'm going to have to recover from mistakes, and I'm going to get good at this, because long term, this business is going to be a driver for my personal wealth, right? Yeah. And that's why you're in it. It's a shame that we have so many guys out there on the internet today that are like, this is easy money. All you have to do is do this, and you're going to make thousands of dollars every day. It is shameful that that's out there, but that's the industry we're in.
Yeah, it's I'll tell you, it's all over social media, man. Twitter feed, like it's all these people, hitting you up like, yeah, I can help you make a lot of money easily. And it's like, yeah, this is a scam. So, listen, it's good to talk to somebody about it, talk to somebody live about it, have an honest conversation. And, it's not scammy. You can make $1 million, right, tomorrow in 3 months, right? It's not. So I appreciate that honesty. And I hope it comes across to my audience as well that, hey, I think there are people who are successful day trading. But having the right mindset, the right process, the right edge, I think, to me, like, that makes sense, right? It's not just, hey, I'm going to follow this guy on YouTube and do what he does, and then you're assuming he's winning when he's really losing, and here you go, losing all your life savings because of somebody you think is doing so great. So I appreciate the time you spent with us, Taylor, and we're about to run up on an hour and a half, so I don't want to keep you much longer than this. How can people learn more about your program, learn more about you, and find you?
Yeah, so you can find me on, YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel called Get the Profit, or The Profit Factor on YouTube, and then
The Profit Factor.
The Profit Factor. It's a play on words. The profit factor is a measurement of that probability of success. So it's one of the measurements we use. And then www.gettheprofitfactor.com is also where you can reach me. So yeah, those are the two best places.
Okay. And I can link to this stuff on in the show notes and things like that. If you want to have like a special link as well, we'll probably have that on the website on the show notes. If you check us out, and want to learn more about it, definitely if you have anything available, I'll put it on there. But great conversation, man. I appreciate it. Like I said, you guys listen for yourselves. I'm not here to push you one way or another. But I think what I heard makes sense. But you guys, make your own choice. Don't let Mike force you to do anything. But no, I appreciate it, Taylor. Anytime you want to come back, talk more sports, talk more about day trading, how to win, how to lose, whatever it is, man. You're welcome. Welcome.
All right, you can invite me back when Texas makes it to the national championship.
Don't they play UGA next week?
Yeah, we talked about that. That's going to be a good one. I'm super excited.
Yeah, they're probably going to take a L. Actually, I don't trust UGA either, so who knows what's going to happen, man.
Yeah. That could be the deciding factor. That could be a big one.
Definitely. Well, there's 12 teams. There's 12 teams that's going to be invited to the championships, to the playoffs now. So it could be, they could lose and still make it. So
yeah,
we'll see, man. All right, you guys. Thanks for hanging out with us for a few minutes. Mike Taylor here, Sports in a Real. I'm gonna catch you guys next time. Peace. Be good.
I'm going straight to the top. Just put the stack on the clock. I am Ray Allen's a shot. I'm going straight to the top.